Unlocked is brought to you by Invincible, a program designed to unlock the potential of people and teams inside your organization. Join companies like Pfizer, Delta, the CDC, Google, and Chick-fil-A, and others in over 116 countries that are currently using this program to increase productivity and develop healthy cultures. Access hundreds of hours of content that is accessible anytime, anywhere. And finally, use real-time data to understand the health of every team inside your organization, which teams are performing and which ones aren't. Then understand the why behind that performance. Get free access to Invincible for 30 days by visiting www.giant.tv/30days. Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Unlocked. Today I am talking to Reneldo Randall of Friends in Biz. And this is a great conversation. I love this conversation. It is all about not just being an entrepreneur and not just starting businesses, but we go into a little bit more of a specific topic when we start talking about partnerships, and not only partnerships, but partnerships with friends and family, and what that means, and why we shouldn't do it, why we should do it, why they fail, and the psychology behind them. We even coined a fun phrase of getting pre-partnership counseling, kind of like pre-marriage counseling, but pre-partnership counseling. And he offers some great tools to help you with that. If you are an entrepreneur, if you've been in business, if you're thinking about going into business with a partner, this is going to be a great interview for you. If you've ever been in a partnership and want to learn from those experiences, this might help you as well. So listen up. Reneldo has some awesome information for us. Let's do it. Hey man, how's it going?
I'm well, sir. How are you?
Hanging tough. Doing the thing we do, right? It's 2021.
Absolutely.
So I want to just start right out of the gate here. You've got a lot of experience doing a lot of different things, everything from higher education administrator, which is what you do, nonprofit leader, business strategist, mentor. You are doing a lot of things to help people through a journey, whether that's, as a higher ed administrator, helping younger people find a career, build them, mentor them through that career, but also really helping entrepreneurs with a focus there on creating structure and intentionality around building good, healthy cultures. Why are you doing that?
I think it's something just built into my DNA. That's a good question. Like, why? It's nothing that I picked all the time. I think it's just things that picked me, and they're things that felt right. And so I just kind of moved forward with them. And so it is a kind of a reoccurring ribbon or narrative that's gone throughout my life where it's service. I'm a social entrepreneur. And so all of my things are kind of in that vein of helping. So I'm in the helping business all around. Right. And so I fell into higher education, but it utilizes all my skill sets. Fell into the nonprofit, utilizes all my skill sets and passions. And so the list goes on with every other business that I've decided to dive into.
Social entrepreneurship. I love that term. So that I've never really heard it put that way before. But I love that. You have some training in human resources. Communication styles and developing those. One thing you mentioned was something interesting about the biggest mistake that companies make when it comes to their company culture. And you said, number one, not being intentional. They're not intentional about it. Or number two, they're not serious enough about it to make sure that one even exists or that it's maintained. Maybe they'll go out and do like a quick little training or something. But the seriousness comes into holding on to that, making it sure it's sticky, consistent, and that it lasts, right? That it's sustainable over time. So have you noticed that in the past with other organizations, maybe people you have worked with in the past? Why did you pick those things as the biggest problems companies are making?
Yes, I think that I just see it a lot, right? They're either too big to be intentional, or they're just not serious about it being intentional. And you have to know what you want to set in terms of a culture for your company or your organization, or you got to know, and you have to be intentional about making sure that permeates throughout the company. And if you're a bigger company, it just means you got to put more effort towards it. If you're a smaller company, it can be a bit easier. Sometimes it can happen organic, but if you're a larger company, mid-sized company, like you can't trust that it will happen organically. People are coming into your organizations with lots of skills, but you need to set the culture, right? The leader needs to set the pace, and it's important that you do that, right? Because once if you let it take on a culture of its own, an identity of its own, it's going to be hard to kind of get it back, right? It's good.
Oh, you went on
I'm
mute.
sorry.
Oh, there you go. There you go. You're
Yeah,
good.
so I was just saying, any changes that you need to make along the way, you can just simply implement those. But when you start out right, it usually ends out right. So I think concerted effort needs to be put towards that.
Okay. Start right so that it ends right. Be proactive, not reactive.
There you go.
That's what I think is a big
There
problem,
you go.
you know?
Yeah.
And if we looked back at COVID or even the racial injustice issues that we were having in this country and inside of organizations that have all been there, but probably just came to the surface, how many companies were reactive to that whole situation as opposed to proactive, you know? Like that's something that's really interesting that I think that we all need to think about and use as an example in the past.
Yeah, I think now that it's happened, nobody expected that to happen, right?
Mm.
There's companies and industries that never thought that anything would disrupt their scalability and their long-term strategy. And so the pandemic comes out of left field and really stir things up for everybody. Now that it's happened, people will obviously put things in place to prevent things like this in the future. They're also is also going to change their mindset. Like they're going to operate different. So now when they're doing their SWOT analysis and they're thinking about the future, the way they invest in things and what they do, they're probably always going to have pretty solid now contingency plans. Because now that this has happened, right? We haven't seen this happen in our lifetime, certainly, right? In the last century. And so now that it's happened, it's going to change the way we've done business and we've worked within our companies forever. Like I think the fact that people are working at home, the teleworking will increase now, right? Because some of the things have shown some cost savings, right? And so there's been some chinks in the armor kind of illuminated, but it also shows some things that some ways we can work better that we've probably been, spending a little bit more money in places where the money didn't need to be spent, and we're probably putting resources in places where we didn't need the resources. And now that we're having to kind of step back and see what's necessity for running business, now that's becoming a little bit more clear. So yeah,
Right
certainly changes that are going to stay. And some will be for efficiency purposes.
Definitely. You see it all over the board, right? And
Yeah.
it's really interesting because it kind of pushed some companies into that, right? It's companies that maybe dabbled with remote working before or were like, no, we're not going to do that. I like all my people here. I like to be able to see them. I like to be able to know that they're doing their jobs and be able to touch them and talk to them and whatever. But now they had to do it. It was an experiment that was forced upon them. And I think I would say more companies rather than less came out of that finding new, brilliant ways to be productive, to build trust with their employees, and to give them more freedom and to build a culture that hopefully is going to help them in the long term, not hurt them.
Yeah, I agree. And they were forced into it, right? And so
Yes.
when you're forced into it, you got to go through the different levels of rebellion and resistance, and then you finally, adopt it, and then you become a part of it, right? You start to play nice, and then you finally start to see what it is that everyone else is seeing, the visionaries in the company and in the business. And yeah, you just move forward. So it's going to change things. I mean, it showed a lot of inefficiencies too. And so if you think about so anybody traveled for business, now they're on Zoom, right? And so think about how much money that saved. You think about people that, even commuting office space, right? Renting commercial locations for office space. Like it stretches out the gambit, right? Now there is a piece of that probably is going to require some training, like for the trust piece and the remote work and balancing. If children are at home or if there's multiple people working at home, some psychological components in that as well. But I mean, there's a lot of great things that are coming out of a really horrible situation. So it's an interesting dynamic.
Yeah, it is. Let's talk about your kind of focus now on entrepreneurship. How do you feel like the pandemic has shaped the entrepreneurial space? Your clients, the people you work with, what's going on in their minds right now?
Yeah, so if you're already an established business person and you had a brick and mortar business, obviously you've had to change how you've done business to survive. And so either you scale your business quickly with peripheral type products and services, right? Where you can slide into stuff that's closely related to what you've already done. If you're no longer able to do business solely the way that you formerly did business. Then you have a group that are going to have to change altogether, right? What you've done in the past because of the pandemic, you can't do anymore. And so then you have to find a way to serve another need, right? To satisfy another need. And that's what businesses do. They solve problems. And then you have a group that because of the pandemic, they've maybe been disjointed or lost their 9-to-5. And now they're going to have to start a business, right? We're in the gig economy. We've been in the gig economy for a little while, so that they may come up with another fancy term, but it's the gig economy where people have done stuff, Uber Eats, they've done all these different things to kind of bring in some additional cash flow. Now some of those, or they've done, they've sewn or they've made things. Now those things are going to become viable businesses for some people where they're going to use that to clothe their kids and bring groceries into the house and pay the rent or mortgage. And so you're going to see those three type of business people. Those are in business that are evolving in their business because of COVID. You're going to see those that are going to have to change. If you're a business person, lots of times you can't be married to the business you're in. You have to find another business, and that's going to be some people. And there's people that never thought about being an entrepreneur and are now being kind of forced into being an entrepreneur with the skill or gift that they had or a problem they didn't think they were going to have to solve, that now they'll solve.
Okay. That's really good insight. And let's put another complicated layer on top of this. So you also work with entrepreneurs that are working inside family and friends, partnerships, starting businesses with family and friends. And maybe, I don't know why, maybe it's because they've been quarantined for months and they're like, hey, we should start some business together, Yeah. So tell me about that dynamic. How do you even begin a business with a friend, family, someone that's close to you?
Yeah, very carefully, right? So you want to, you let me know, Scott, when you've ever heard people that are doing business with family or friends, usually it's frowned upon a little bit, right? It's not encouraged. There's the risk outweighs the cost. The benefit outweighs the cost in a lot of cases based on people's conversation. And so me and my best friend have been doing business for about 30 years. And so we're like, well, we've been able to do this, multiple businesses and throughout different industries. And so
wait, hold on. Let me stop you there.
Yeah.
You said you and your friend have been doing business for 30 years?
My friend. Yeah.
30 years?
30. Well, and so
wow, that's awesome.
We didn't box the book. I'm not that old, I know. Thank you for bringing that up. So 30 years.
You started when you were 10?
Yeah, we started young. Literally, we were probably 12 or 13. And so
wow.
It started as athletics, right? And it's how to work on a team. That's where it starts, right? You want to win, and you want to win in business, and winning means different things. But we had to work on a team together, and we had to lead teams of our own. Like he was on offense, I was on defense. We had to work together to get the offense, defense to do what we wanted to do, which was win. And so it's almost like we were the heads of the two areas, and then we went back to the areas to help the whole team win. So it really started there conceptually, and it just stuck. And so then we went into nonprofit, we went into minority investing, publishing company, speaking business, and the list goes on. And so we organically did that. And so then we went back and figured out what we did right and what other people were doing wrong, because people kept asking us, right? And so we sat down and we talked to other business owners that are friends and family and loved ones, right? And we went through, we actually have an inventory that you should sit down with your friend or family member, right? Before you even get started. Kind of like marriage counseling. I'm married. So me and my wife did pre-marriage counseling. And so we sat down with the pre-marriage counseling. We talked about what do we like, what do we don't like, right? Because when you start off in marriage or in business, it's all happy and euphoric, but then life happens. And so same thing with business, life happens. So you set these rules and guidelines while you're in a good state of mind, you're jovial and you're feeling good. And then when those storms come, because they will come, you revisit the document and you talk about what you said you would do when you were feeling good about the business. And now that things are a little rocky, you revisit the rules that were made. And so it's the thing that keeps things in order. So that's how you should start it. And that's kind of the background of how we got into the book and then now into the coaching and consulting type.
Okay. So you're saying that I should go into pre-partnership counseling, right?
Yes.
Is that what it is?
Pre-partnership counseling. I think you just coined something. Yeah.
Run with it, man.
Pre-partnership counseling.
New business for you, because I know apparently you like starting stuff. So there you go.
Yeah.
You're in your business.
There you go. I appreciate that.
It's a pre-partnership
counseling.
Bring me in on just something.
That's exactly what it is.
I want to be brought in on something right there.
Yes, sir. Count it done.
That's awesome. So that's so valuable, because here's what happens, right? And I've had a lot of discussions with different people. I've never actually done it because my dad's an accountant and he says, oh man, you don't want a partnership, that they always end up this way. They always end up that way. No, you don't want that. So I've always kind of been really trigger shy. Right. But going in with these individuals, there's definitely a lot of value that adds, right? There's some scary things, but the value there is also important. Why? If I'm on the fence, what would you say to me to help me really consider doing the partnership thing?
Yeah. Well, think about it. For those that have thought about starting a business, or even when you want to tell somebody something exciting about your life, you always go to your friends, family, and loved one, right? You start a business, either you're doing the business with them or you want them to be a customer, right? And so there's a benefit of picking who you do business with, right? And having it be somebody that you know, love, and trust. And so that's a big thing, right? And that is a big thing. And sometimes that's enough, right? You know, love, and trust. And not only do you work with them, but you have an opportunity to go on vacation with them. So you make the money with them and you spend the money with them, right? And so, and then there's things that once you get further down the line, there's legacy that's there. And so it can build the relationship. And this is what our book endeavors to do. Build the business relationship, but also build the relationship that was existing, right? At least maintaining it, but even growing it. And so it's just that idea of doing business with people you know, love, and trust, and then spending money with people you know, love, and trust. And, you all make the rules. There needs to be equal respect. And there's a lot of complexities to work out in any business because people are different, their relationships are different. But if you can work those out, it's bliss.
Okay. So what types of, because I dig a lot into personalities and communication styles in my line of work and what I do with coaching clients. I know you do that too. What would you consider the almost ideal partnership? Who are those individuals, those personalities that make up kind of that solid partnership you've seen be successful?
Gotcha. So like even in our book, we talk about doing a personality test and a battery of them, not just one, like do 3 or 4 so that there's no refuting the science says, right? Like all of them are saying this is the type of personality you are. And now we don't have to tell your friend, family, or loved one, like, yeah, you're this person, right? You have that to support you. And then you bring somebody like you or me to say, hey, like this supports it. Let's talk about what this means and how you all can use this to build together. So I would also say it really doesn't matter. You need to figure out what they are, but after that, it doesn't matter what they are. Because then you bring on the other personality types or skill sets that you need to make the business run, right? So whatever you don't have and identify that, whatever your weaknesses is, then you bring on people to have that strength. Now, the tricky part is in the beginning when, you're a micro business, you're a solopreneur with times 2, I guess, right? You're a partnershipreneur duo. You may have to do a lot of the stuff, which may not be in your wheelhouse. But if you know your partners, your family and friend members' personality type, what moves them, it helps out a lot. Just as you make decisions, the way you receive them when they say certain things, even through electronic medium. So it just helps you move, you don't spend a lot of emotional energy, right, on thinking through why they did or said a certain thing. You know that it's attached to the personality type. You don't take it personal and you can keep moving, right? And so that keeps the momentum going. And it keeps a happy, healthy balance.
Okay. So
Yeah. But if
I
you don't,
heard, oh, go ahead. Sorry.
no, I was just gonna end with this, right? Like it's important to know that you and that person don't have to be the end all be all. Like you should and will, when the time is right, bring on other people that fill in those gaps in personality and in skill set.
Okay. So what I was going to say is that's right on. Right. And what you said about filling those gaps, because we call it the missing voice, right? If you understand your own style, so it's first being self-aware, being aware of my strengths and weaknesses, what I bring to the table, what I need help with, what my partner brings to the table, what they also need help with, being okay with that, humble enough to have that good discussion, and then bringing in people eventually to help us where we need that hole filled, right?
Absolutely. You know what's difficult is like me. So we said we've been doing it for 30 years. People change a lot in 30 years. I'm certainly not the 12-year-old I was. I mean, I had hair.
Yeah, no, I had hair. What? You did?
I had hair. So when people know you for that long, it's difficult for them to see you in a different light. And so you have to be, athletics helped us because we got really good at constructive criticism, and we got really good at knowing each other in tight spots. And so you really got to assess how you know a person and really come to terms with this is their new skill set in this endeavor. And if you share multiple endeavors like me and my partner do, it's like, well, in one endeavor, he's kind of the leader. And in this endeavor, I'm the leader because of the nature of the business. But we respect our skill sets. And it really, really works good because it's an unspoken communication that makes things rapid fire. So
nice.
I would pray that everybody get that. And the thing too is like everybody will be a friend in business, right? Because this also fits into the corporate world. Like you're gonna make friends. So it's friends, family, and familiarity partners. So in business, you work somewhere for a decade or so. They're your friend. You spend more time with them than your family. And so how do you also deal with them in the same way? It doesn't have to be an entrepreneurial enterprise.
So let's jump off to the other side. Why do most of them fail then? Like if it has such a stigma to it, right? Don't start business with friends. Don't do business. Don't even do business with friends and family. Don't sell them anything. Don't buy anything from them, and definitely don't go into business with them. So why is there that stigma though? Why do they fail?
Yeah, so we did a poll, right? We did a due diligence, and so a lot of people feel like the cost doesn't outweigh the benefit, right? People don't respect your skill set. I kind of alluded to that. They treat you different than they would treat a stranger in business, right? They want a discount if they're going to be a consumer of yours. This is a lot of complexity. It does take a lot. It does take some emotional, it's emotional exercise. It's going to be it takes a little bit of work to get it going, right? Because you got to work through these things. How you feel. Like you just met me today. So all you know about me is my professional life, right? Well, you didn't meet me today, but in the last couple months, where my friends have known me all my life. And if they're really close friends, they know all my dirt. And so it's hard to departmentalize that piece of them and now recognize them as this person. So it takes some work to realize what are the things that are going to be barriers to doing business with family and friends. And then knowing after hearing that information, is it still worth it? Right. And so it only has to be worth it. It has to be something you want to do. You have to see the vision, you have to see the goal, and you have to see the benefits and be willing to work on the things that are the common, like slippery slopes, so that you all don't slip down those slopes.
So why have you been able to do it for 30 years? Besides all the kind of other stuff we've been talking about, right? And you could reemphasize any of those points, but what is the secret sauce for you and your partner?
Man, I don't know if we've just been lucky, but the book says, right? So as we distilled it down, we have respect for one another, right? So there's that equal respect. Constructive criticism is used because people are sensitive. We really learn each other's personality types throughout the years. Some of that just came because we were intuitive to know. We did move forward with a lot of personality tests. We spent a lot of time together. And so we know each other's weaknesses and strengths and pain points, right? And then one thing is really, really cool that really maintains this, right? And we keep each other accountable out in, in our romantic relationships, in our business relationships, in our relationship with other friends. We keep each other accountable, and we're open to that constructive criticism. But the one thing I will say is, like, it's really hard to have conversations with people when it's something real touchy. You just don't know how to open up the door for conversation. So what we've done to make it easier, and this is a freebie, everybody should use this, is come up with some type of code word that notifies that person that, hey, I'm feeling some type of way about what's going on, or in a meeting with other people, what's being said. And so that's an indicator to them, like, oh, Renaldo doesn't like what I'm saying for some reason. I trust and respect him enough to stop, have the conversation, or to stop what I'm saying in the meeting and maybe let him jump in, right? And then we can talk, we can debrief afterwards about what that was. And so that's probably one of the biggest things, because if you can think about it, when you need to have a hard conversation, it's like, when's the right moment? How do I lead into it? It's too emotionally charged right now. So simple, take all that off of the table. One keyword that lets them know that, oh, okay, we need to bring it down or take it away because we need to talk about something too, and be willing to have that conversation. But it makes it so much easier because it's that word. You have to think about it, and that's indication that, hey, we're not on the same page. So combination of that stuff, but that word, like that's been really great, because when you can't articulate or stop or say, you just say the word, and that like pauses everything.
So like yellow banana, right?
Yeah, that'd be hard to get off in a meeting, but yeah. It has to be something that
right?
you can say in public. Yeah, it has to be something you can say in public, but if we're on the phone or even in a text, right?
Okay.
And so we talk a lot about electronic communication because, as you know, it can get convoluted when you're doing, right? Particularly if people don't know you. But when they know you better, they can understand understand your communication via electronic medium better as well. So
yellow banana is probably a little bit complicated.
Yellow banana, yeah, that might be an awkward word in the room, but you got the idea.
I got you, man. I got you. I've heard something a little bit like that, and in the marriage counseling space, right? Is hey, there has to be some kind of agreement, right? So say I don't want to go to this party, right? And my wife wants to go to this thing. Okay. We talk about it before. There's agreement. There's an understanding. I don't want to go, but I will go. And we're going to stay for 45 minutes. There's a mutual agreement. Mm-hmm. But there's some kind of key phrase, key word I can use to let her know that I'm done. Like there's got to be this give and take. And I think that's what you're talking about is that this relationship that, I mean, you've known your business partner longer than your wife, right? And it's a tight relationship, but it's been built off respect, understanding, and trust with each other, So I think that's really, really important. Building employee engagement, when we talk about that and engagement with others around us, how do we foster that? How do we get more engagement out of those that are working with us in a partnership, or maybe those working for us?
So, man, what immediately comes to my mind is, as a leader, I feel like in particular in the meeting setting, you start the meeting and you end the meeting, and everything in between is engagement of the bright people that you hired or were, thrust upon you. So, you start the meeting with the idea and you let them talk and you insert for clarity. And then at the end, you close the meeting, recapping what you've pulled out of it to confirm that that's what we're going to move forward with. So, a very diplomatic, but democratic type leadership style. But I also think as a leader, and a leader can be, you don't have to be the person in charge, obviously, to be the leader, but that influencer is that influencer. I feel like you got to know your people. It gets more difficult the larger the company gets, but you have to know your people, or at least the key leaders over the sectors of the department. You want to be genuine, so you don't want to be disingenuous with this, but you definitely want to check in with them, know what they like, know what they don't like, see how their dog, if they have a dog instead of a child, or they're getting married, or they're mother-in-laws, you want to know those things. You want to check in on them, right? Because people want to know that you care. They don't really care how much you know until they know how much you care, right? That's a saying that I've embodied, right? I literally want to know how they're doing, particularly during like COVID, right? And so you get more out of them that way, and you hire them on with their skills, and then you let them be free to be great too. And so my employees, I rarely have the best idea, right? And so that type of engagement, and sometimes they'll, knowing that it's open and it's democratic like that, they'll toss in ideas about what we should do as an office, right? To team that I'm like, that's great. That's not my strength, but I know, and identifying people's strength at the same time. So it's a couple of different things woven in there, right? Identifying their strengths, being genuine about their life outside of work, even though they spend a lot of time at work. And just giving them the freedom, like, just to be great, right? Bring great ideas to the table. Let's see if we can use them now, or if we can make them best fit for this moment, or do we need to put them on the shelf and revisit them later?
Love it, man. So good. I'm not going to mess it up by saying anything else, because that was great. That was awesome. I really appreciate it. Is there anything that you can offer my audience to help them with any of this?
Yeah. So if you want to go to Friends in Biz, right? FRINDSINBIZ.com/resources. So this, what you call it, this partnership. I like the way you phrase it. It's the marriage counseling piece, but it's that, what's the new, we're coining? I might change the name of it. What'd you call it earlier?
Pre-partnership counseling.
There you go. Pre-partnership counseling.
Yep.
That, so there's a document like that. And then there's a second document that talks about strategy, right? So kind of risk assessment, right? So the one document will talk about, well, what should you sit down and talk about with a friend that you're going to be in business with? And once you look at it, you'll see that it can be used for other things as well. And then there's a strategic document, like risk assessment. And so that's what people are worried about at the end of the day. And so I think that once they get comfortable with that, they feel more comfortable about moving forward, because some of the risk has been removed. So I think that's a resource that will save people a lot of time. And then also on the website, they can find out about what we do. It's pretty niched. And yeah, if they have any questions, they can contact me. That my information is there.
Awesome. That is so good. Yeah, those two documents are really interesting to me, right? I mean, I'm not into a partnership right now, but I would love to see kind of the psychology behind what is in those questions, because I could probably apply them to my marriage, right? At the same time.
Absolutely. We say, R&D is research and development. Well, it's also rip off and duplicate. So yeah. A lot of that conceptually, at least conceptually, is from marriage counseling, right? I feel like I have pretty good marriage, and a lot of stuff crosses over.
It does.
Business, in life, it does. And people should not be afraid to allow it to cross over for the betterment of whatever you're doing.
It's so true. So true. Well, I appreciate you, Reneldo. Good luck in all you're doing. Keep rocking it out there. Good luck. You started a new mastermind group, so good luck with that. And helping those entrepreneurs. I call them the little fish with big dreams, right?
Little fish with big dreams.
That's what they are. So congratulations on doing that. I'm an entrepreneur. You're an entrepreneur. Let's rule the world, right?
Yeah. Everybody's an entrepreneur. Appreciate it, Skot with a K.
All right, buddy. See ya. I'm going to hit on those 3 last topics. Strengths. Understand the strengths of your people. Be genuine. Really be genuine. Have interest in them. Understand where they're coming from. Understand them as people, not just their skills and what the things they do in that way, but their lives. Understand who they are as people. And number 3, it's about giving them the freedom to be free. I love that statement. Freedom, I call it liberation, comes through empowerment. And when we empower other people, when we give them the freedom to be free, all types of things can happen in their own lives as individuals, in their families, and in our teams and our organizations. We will grow, we will excel, we will be all the things that we dream we can be when we're entrepreneurs starting companies. So take that to heart. The partnership discussion is key. I hope that you took something out of that. And if you did, throw it in the comments, throw it in the chat. I would love to understand a little bit more about what you're thinking as you listen to these episodes. If you want to find out more, you can visit my website at skotwaldron.com. If you want to read more, see more of my interviews and whatnot, YouTube channel, it's all good. Please subscribe, like, share, do all those things. I really appreciate you. This has been an episode of Unlocked, and we will see you next time.